This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
You may be seated. A brilliant magician was performing on an ocean liner. But every time he did a trick, the captain's parrot would yell, "It's a trick! It's a phony! That's not magic!" Then one evening, during a storm, the ship sank while the magician was performing. The parrot and the magician ended up in the same lifeboat. For several days, they just glared at each other, neither saying a word to the other. Finally, the parrot couldn't stand it any longer. Okay, I give up. What did you do with the ship?" The parrot couldn't explain that last trick. It was too much to comprehend, even for the smart parrot. Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here with you. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." Scholars over the years have tried and tried to explain what in the world Peter meant by this suggestion. I think trying to find meaning to these words is pointless. It's simply the way Matthew explains Peter was frightened, and he just said the first thing that came into his head. He simply could not comprehend what was happening. On life, moments occur that are incomprehensible. The birth of one's child is one of those moments. The loss of a loved one is one of those moments. Not just long ago, September 11th was one of those moments. There are mountaintop and valley moments that throughout life, we are never ready for them. They arrive unannounced, changing us in irreversible ways. But there is one thing that they have in common. They demand that we be silent and listen. These moments have something to say to us, to teach us. But too often our response is like that of Peter. We cannot understand the significant, the meaningful moment. And when Peter does finally quit talking nonsense, a cloud appears and surrounds them, and the voice of God gives this instruction to Peter, James, and John. "This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him." That's it. Very short. To the point. What Peter said makes no sense. What God said had a mountain of meaning. I would like to spend a few moments this morning unpacking the meaning of it. "This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him." There is a mountain of meaning in those words. Let's look at the first idea. This is my son. This event in life of Christ is one of the more strange and therefore more difficult to understand. He has been described as an epiphany. It has been given the name, the Transfiguration. Transfiguration. We use big names when we can't understand something. But there are some very clear words spoken in this very obscure event. This is my son. Earlier, Jesus had been with his disciples discussing his identity. Who do the people say I am? Elijah? Jeremiah? John the Baptist came the replies. But who do you say I am? Jesus asked. You remember Peter's answer, right? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Also at this time, Herod had learned about Jesus, and he thought Jesus was John the Baptist back from the dead. So all these questions are surfacing about the identity of Jesus. There should be no question that his disciples are having their doubts. And so Jesus takes his inner circle up on the mountain for this very private encounter. It is here that they learn in a definite way who Jesus is. He is none other than the Son of God. No other source would have been as convincing. They hear it from heaven, and there is a mountain in that. There has been some big events in the life of Israel. The Exodus, Moses, the Ten Commandments, David, the anointed king, the return from the exiles in Babylon. But none bigger than this. This was not another in a long history of God's actions in shaping the world history. This was God in the first person. Here was God's very own Son. It is surprising then that when we learn in Luke's gospel that his disciples fell asleep. In the middle of this mountain of meaning, they dozed off. This reminds me of Rip Van Winkle. He fell asleep and he didn't wake up until King George was replaced by George Washington, and he was an American citizen. The tragedy is he slept through the Revolution. While he snored, oblivious to his surroundings, fantastic, earth-shaking events had taken place. This is what happened to the disciples. They were oblivious to all that was taking place. Don't be too critical of the disciples at this point. Many times we have our heads in the clouds, enclosed in our own little world, and losing sight of the much larger world, and sleep through the great events. This was not another act of God in the life of Israel. This was the fulfillment of all past events. This was the total of the ages. This was the hope and the fears of all the years. This was God's Son. This is my Son, whom I love. Listen to him. There is a mountain of meaning in these words. Let's look at the second idea, whom I love. The disciples were hearing from heaven itself. This is my Son, whom I love. I suppose you could say there was many whom God loves. Adam, he loved, but Adam disappointed him. Abraham believed God that he would have a son, and he offered up his son as a sacrifice. But even Abraham tried to force God's hand by laying with his maidservant in having Ishmael. David was a man after God's own heart, but he abused the power he was given. Solomon was wise beyond his years, but he brought idolatry to the land. Israel was a great prophet, but he was a man of unclean lips. You can travel the pages of biblical history and find many whom God loved. But there is no finality to any of these. In Christ, God's love is complete. There is no malice, no disobedience, no sin in him. This is my son, whom I love. Listen to him. There is a mountain of meaning in these words. Let's look at the third idea. Listen to him. I suppose that this is where most of the problems exist. Throughout history, it has not been difficult for many non-Christians to believe that Jesus was the Son of God. Many religious throughout the ages agreed with this concept. Nor did they take issue with the idea that God was pleased with Jesus' life. God assuredly would have any man who advocated the things and did the things that Jesus did. But listen to him. That's another matter altogether, isn't it? Most of the pain in this world is due to a man's unwillingness to listen, to obey. Eli Whistle tells the story of a prophet who came to the city and delivered his message every day in the marketplace. And after the time, his ranting became a fixture of the city's life, and the people regarded him with amusement when they regarded him at all. Finally, a small boy, pitying the old man, approached him and said, "Sir, why do you keep crying aloud like this every day, year after year? And the people here will never listen to you. I gave us up hope that they would listen to me a long time ago," said the prophet. "I go on crying lest I begin to listen to them." A mountain of meaning. In the journey to Jerusalem, the disciples are given a genuine moment, a transparent happening that reveals with clarity that Christ, above all men, pleases God, and above all others, speak for God. It is this glimpse that will sustain their discipleships into the future. They will continue to cry out in a world not eager to listen. But for those who will listen, they will find a moment of meaning here on the mountain of Transfiguration. They will learn from heaven itself, "This is my Son, whom I love," if they will listen. If they will listen. Let us pray. Hover over us too, O God, with your cloud of intimate presence. Let your glory be revealed to us and also through us to others who so need it in their lives. Show us the way up and down the mountain of discipleship. In Christ's name we pray.